Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Real Talk for Real Teens, hosted by Kim Creighton, or as she's known by the people who know her best, Mama C. The show where we uniquely combine the information teens need with the entertainment teens want.
Hi guys, how are you? Welcome to another episode of Real Talk for Real Teens. I am your host tonight, Kim Creighton. And I have one of my guest hosts on, Caitlin. So introduce yourself, Caitlin. Tell everybody hello.
Hi, guys. I'm Caitlin Kaminsky. I'm a high school student, and I want to be a journalism student one day.
All right. And our musical guest tonight is Wise Girl. And our guest tonight is Tom. Is it Rosenthal?
Rosensteel.
Oh, wow. I got that all wrong. See, that's what happens when I don't have my notes in front of me. Rosensteel. And I want to welcome him to the show. Welcome, Tom. Introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, Kim. It's great to be here. I was a newspaper reporter for a long time. I was the press critic of the LA Times and the chief congressional correspondent for Newsweek magazine for 16 years. I ran something called the Project for Excellence in Journalism, which was the think tank that was part of the Pew Research Center in Washington, I founded that group. And then 8 months ago, I took over an organization called the American Press Institute, which is we're turning into a think tank about innovation in news and media.
Oh, now that sounds interesting. Okay, so and I looked at that. So that's the American Press Institute, and that's turning itself into. Okay, I want you to really talk about that because innovation in news and media is interesting. Well, okay, guys, let me tell you why I brought Tom on the show. As you know, I am just the real deal Holyfield, and I want you guys to hear from an expert, somebody who does this for a living, about the importance of that curiosity, of finding things out, of knowing what's going on around you, of exploring your environment, of being good stewards in your communities and knowing what's out there and just being informed citizens. And I'm not talking about the news I noticed. Well, I'm not noticed. Okay, Tom, I don't know how you're going to take this. But I often say now that news is a lot about entertainment. And it's they have to sell ad space, they have to get viewers. It depends. And like if I'm watching the morning news, the Today Show, CBS in the morning, or Good Morning America, and those shows, like that's where I saw you. Okay, let me back up. Tom, I saw recently on the Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is the president or the owner, starter of Amazon, who bought the Washington Post. That was news. No one was talking about that in the communities that I was in, Tom. They'll talk about Kim Kardashian and stuff like that, but that's big news.
Mm-hmm.
That, and then they were also talking about other people these other billionaires who are buying these small town papers, well, Washington Post is not a small paper, but trying to save the papers that have reputations beyond entertainment, let's put it that way, and It's a challenge. So speak to that a little bit.
Okay, so technology has changed, obviously, the news business hugely because it used to be that you could only get the newspaper that was in your town or the TV newscast that was in your town. And in the last 15 years, all that's changed because you can go online and you can find out about things from anywhere, anything that interests you. And you don't even have to go to a news site. You could be on Facebook, on Twitter, on Pinterest, anywhere that people are talking, and they'll say, oh, did you hear about this? News and what we call journalism is really how people learn about things beyond their immediate experience. You know, in ancient civilizations, if you wanted to know what the tribe over the next hill was doing, that was news. You know, even things, you know, anything you don't know that you didn't see for yourself that somebody tells you about, that's news. And people are interested in the news that, you know, affects their lives, seems relevant to them. And what that is changes as you get older. You know, you have kids, suddenly you're really interested in schools, and you're interested in, you know, real estate prices. But when you're in school, you're interested in different things, music, you know, fashion, and a lot of other things. But it's not the same thing that your parents are interested, or your grandparents, or even your older siblings are interested in as they go off to college or do, you know, get a job or whatever they're doing. So news is what interests you that you don't know and that you want to discover. It's really like conversation. And now there's so many places you can find it that you're really in charge. You know, it used to be you kind of were force-fed. You learn whatever was in the paper or on the TV show. And now you're your own anchor person. You're navigating for yourself and getting what you want, and you're getting it when you want it, not at 6:30 when the news comes on, anytime you want, maybe even when you're in bed and you're supposed to be sleeping, but you pull out your phone.
I like the no one has ever given me a definition of news like that. I like that. What do you think about that, Caitlin?
I agree with him. And I know that he said that news changes as you age. It is true, because I know for me, I watch the news regularly at 5 o'clock just because it's always on, and my parents have watched it, so I, like, grew up like that. And I know my friends, they're not necessarily interested in the news, and that kind of bothers me a little bit because they find out through Twitter. And I know it's faster and all, but it's just not the same as hearing it from somebody, from a credible source, out of their mouth rather than written. So, I don't know.
Well, that's a big issue, you know. How do you know who's telling you? Who's the source? And those are things you even ask in school, you know. You learn that, like, you hear a rumor and you go, well, who told you? How do you know?
Right.
And a lot of people don't ask. They just go with the rumor. And I was always the person who, I heard a rumor, so I need to go to that source and find out. So I heard this.
Right.
Is this true? You know? So I guess I've always had that little bit of journalism in me. But I like that definition of news is what you are interested in that's outside of what you already know, and that you can be your own anchor person, because that's one of the things, it's like the Internet democratized everything. You know, you can hear about the unrest in other countries. You know how all these, I don't want to call them civil wars, but these things these uprisings are happening, and it's starting on Twitter because they're able to pass information even when the government shuts down. They try to censor things, so that's empowering. And it's but on the flip side of that, you have that stuff that can change a whole country's destiny, or you have all these people every day. You get somebody else has died and they're not dying, and they have to come on in some kind of form and say, "Hey, I'm alive! Woo! I'm over here. I didn't die."
Right. Well, like if you have a TV program at your school, the school-sponsored TV show, that's one kind of news. And the principal comes on and says, when we're having this, assembly about whatever, this at Loon, and there'll be a spring concert, and that's one kind of news, and it's real news. But the things that your friends tell you at recess is another kind of news, Maybe that's a little more like Kim Kardashian. And one of the things when that the kind of the consumer is in charge, news is a bit more like eating. When you eat, you have to make good choices. You can't just eat Cheetos all day. If you do, you'll get fat and you will get tired because you won't have gotten protein and all the other things you need. And the news is getting to be like food. We have lots and lots of choices, and we need to learn to be smart so we're not uninformed. The people who are uninformed get taken advantage of, and the people who know things that matter, kind of rule the world. They end up more in charge because they know things ahead. They know things that are important before other people.
And there's a thing about curiosity that I really just to know something different. That's what I love about meeting you at TED. I love TED Talks, and I encourage young people to watch TED videos because there's so much that you don't know that you don't know. And young people, that's the age when we're invincible and we think we know everything and no one can tell us anything. But there's such a broad world out there, and I say this all the time, Tom. Think about when we were coming out of high school. For us, I'm going to be honest, for us, and I've said this on the show before, for me to move from when I was in Chicago at the time to move to California, if I had done that, that would have been a big deal. It is no big deal for this generation of kids to be U.S. citizens and spend their entire adult lives living outside the United States. And they're just not prepared for that. They have no idea where these other countries exist, where they even located, what's going on, how they can use that information to benefit their careers, or the vast majority of them are just ignorant when it comes to global issues, and I mean ignorant in the terms of just don't know.
Mm-hmm. What do your friends talk about? Like when you talk about, this
like
broad
news?
definition is, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to stop
Justin
right
Bieber.
there. Oh, my God. Okay, we're going to stop right there, Caitlin, because I want you to answer that when we come back. So when we come back, we're going to have our first song by Wise Girls, and Caitlin's, after the break music, is going to introduce them. We're going to listen to them, and we're going to come back because I really want to hear about this as well. So,
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So this is You'll Just... So this is You'll Just Have to Wait by Wise Girl.
I'm sitting here staring at my phone, waiting for it to ring. I want your name to show up on the screen so I can hit the ignore button, and you'll just have to wait. I know that you're obsessively thinking of me, but I can't give you my heart or the key to the lock when there's no guarantee. So you'll just have to wait. Finally, I'm hiding. Take me out so I can shut you up, and when you finally confide in me, I'll say, I know you are lost at sea, but I'm a pirate. I can't be the one to help you up when you are down. I'll back off and I'll believe I'm better off with nobody will beg and plead with your knees on the ground. But you just have to wait. Yeah, you just have to wait. The second that I see you, I feel tight in the chest. I'm having trouble breathing, but I don't acknowledge that. I got a suffix there every shot that hot for you. Finally, I'm hiding. Take me out so I can shut you up, and when you finally confide in me, I'll say, I know you are lost at sea, but I'm a pirate. I can't be the one to help you up when you are down. I'll back off and I'll believe I'm better off with nobody will beg and plead with your knees on the ground. But you just have to wait. Yeah, you just have to wait. Yeah, you just have to wait. Yeah, you just have to.
Welcome back to Real Talk for Real Teens, hosted by Kim Creighton. To talk live on the air, call 347-539-5226.
All right, welcome back to Real Talk for Real Teens. I have Caitlin Comiskey and Tom Rosenstein on. So, Caitlin, ready to answer that question. Repeat your question, Tom, and then Caitlin answer, because that was a big question.
Well, what I was curious about, Caitlin, is when you and your friends talk about what you would call news, thinking of this really broad definition, things that you don't know that interest you about stuff that didn't happen to you directly, whether it's friends or celebrities or stuff, in town or in the world. What are those things? What do you guys talk about?
Well, I know my friends, they don't watch the news. Like I said, it's all on Twitter, but when we talk, it's all Justin Bieber and One Direction, all celebrities, and I feel like they don't know what's going on in different countries. Like Kim said before, that we don't know where places are. My sister said to me, she thought that Morocco was in Europe when it's in Africa, and I was just like, oh my God. Like, it's really concerning me, this generation.
Well, I mean, I say that because Tom and I, we took geography in high school, didn't we? They don't have geography. They don't have geography anymore in school.
They don't have that anymore.
I'm going to be honest. Yeah, it's not on any test. Let's
nope.
be honest. Geography is not. They're not going to test them on it. So that's. But again, that's one of my issues. If somebody is not giving you something you need, then it's on you to go out and get what you need.
I agree with you.
So when they took certain things out, we're not going to blame the schools, because the schools are doing what they're mandated to do by the counties or the school districts, the state and the federal government. They have enough people that they have to be beholden to. So if your friends, if you're saying that they speak about, celebrities, and so what you said they're on Twitter, so that's the only, if they don't watch the news, so the news that they're getting is coming from Twitter, and it's all celebrity based.
Yeah. I mean, when things trend, oh, sorry.
No, finish.
When things trend on Twitter, I know I'm curious to see what's happening. Like if I see a country name pop up or something, just to be aware of what's going on. I know they do that too, but they're not getting real news.
Well, again, go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was just going to say, Twitter gives you, it sort of reflects yourself all over again, because it's people you follow who, and for kids it's usually people they know themselves or famous people that they follow, it's kind of like an echo chamber. So one of the things that you should think about is, who is it who could tell me things that I don't know that are important that I might want to follow? It might just mean taking the Twitter feed from a newspaper or a news organization or someplace where you think, oh, they'll tell me about whether there's anything important I should know about. You don't actually have to click on that stuff. Just having it sort of roll by in your scroll is a way of sort of adding something to the mix, adding some spice, some salt, some protein.
Well, my question is for then is, and this is just my observation, where you're saying, Tom, the things that they're might be questioning, not a lot of them question. Because I'm going to say, as a young person, I did not necessarily. If it wasn't, like Caitlin said, if my parents didn't watch the news and my grandmother and grandparents didn't read the newspaper, watch the news, I might not necessarily have been exposed to it and found interest in it myself. But it was around me. And because I may not have had those questions, again, you don't know what you don't know. If I didn't have the questions, I wasn't looking for the answers.
Yeah,
but
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, but not asking the question in this day and age is hurting them more than it hurt us.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, when we were kids, there were only, it's hard for people to think of this, but there were only 4 TV channels when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
So, you wanted to watch TV, you kind of had to watch what was on. And, it was either watch TV, go outside, or read a book. So your choices were a lot more limited. And if you turned on TV and the news was on, some guy in a suit was saying, here's what you need to know today. It might have been boring, but you were exposed to these things. And, and actually the country was affected by that because suddenly everybody knew the same thing. Everybody was getting information from the same 4 channels. That was even a big change from when my parents grew up, where they only read the paper in their town.
Exactly.
And it kind of unified us. And now, it's hard to know what is what they call the common space. What's the public square? What's the common knowledge that we have? You even have to ask yourself, okay, in Washington, politicians are fighting all the time. They can't seem to get along. They can't even pass the budget. They can't even agree to, on whether we should pay our debt bills or not. It's never been this polarized in Washington. And you have to wonder whether the fact that we are all in our own different little spaces for information is one of the reasons that's happened.
Well, when you speak of that, that's why, not to say anything about left or right, Democrat, Republican, Tea Party or whatever, but now you can go, instead of having those 4 stations, you can go to specifically something that people are saying exactly what you want to hear and exactly how you want to hear it. And any deviation from that causes a lot of angst in people. So my question for you, Caitlin, is, okay, you said your friends are uninformed or ill-informed, and that's just being a young person. You're always in that moment. You care about what you care about. How might you, because this is your career. This is something you want to do. This is something you're passionate about. How might you use? First, let me stop there. Tom, I want you to tell us about the American Press Institute, because I'm trying to figure out how we can. I want to know exactly what you said, because you said it's about innovation. So tell me about that first before I ask Caitlin this question. Okay,
so the American Press Institute is actually quite old. It was started in 1946, before I was ever born. And what it did for 50 years was it trained people who worked for newspapers when they got a new job or they got promoted or needed to know something new. They would go to a physical place, first Columbia University, and then we owned this building in Virginia. And they would go there, and they'd go for a week, and it would be kind of a nice little getaway. And they would take classes, and there were these really nice classrooms with kind of looked like the United Nations, and you were out in the countryside in Virginia, and you'd get away and you'd spend time with a bunch of people you didn't know, and it was like a little camp. That began to run its course because these news companies were not making as much money as they had before, because people had so many other choices, and because advertising on the Internet doesn't generate nearly as much money as advertising does on television or in print magazines and newspapers. So the money went away and the people stopped coming to the trainings. So what we've decided to do when I took over 8 months ago is to turn it into a place that identified where there was real innovation going on, where people were experimenting with not only new ways to tell stories and communicate, but also new ways to finance news, to monetize, what they call monetize or make money from connecting with people. Where are the new ideas that might help journalism reinvigorate itself? We're doing research to find those ideas. We do workshops to communicate them. I do a lot of speaking. And we're also using the Internet. We're building a whole kind of digital university on our website so people who just are hunting for this kind of information will discover it. They don't have to be invited. They don't have to pay for training. They don't have to go somewhere. If you're curious, you can find these ideas. We're just getting started, but that's the notion. It'll be a kind of think tank, and a lot of that think tank will exist online.
Okay. All right, Caitlin. Well, everything he just said, how and the propensity for lack of information that your fellow peers have, how do you think? Again, this is because I brought you guys on because I really wanted to challenge you and to take your desire to the next level. How can you help? What am I trying to say? How can you help your fellow peers? I mean, I'm not even talking about worldwide, just your group of friends become more informed, and not informed in the way of the things that we think they should know, but just become more curious, even if it's about Justin Bieber, going beyond the surface of what they find on Twitter, finding something really meaningful about what he may be doing in his life. How do you think you can do that?
Follow credible people. Follow people who he follows or he talks about in his tweets. I don't know. I mean, I follow people who tweet information I should know, like Today Show and all the news organizations and local stations. And that's how I find out stuff. And I know my friends, some of them follow them, but they're not really getting anything. They just skip over it. But if Justin Bieber tweets it, they'll read it.
But see, I like what you just said, and we're going to take a break after I say this. Take our second break, so get ready to introduce the song.
Okay.
You said follow who he's following. See, and I think Tom alluded to this as well. So if you think, okay, we're not going to judge it. If Justin Bieber is your generation's Tom Brokaw or Walter Cronkite, okay, I'll go with that. But what you're also saying is follow who he's following. See, if he says something, where did he get that from? And then connect those dots. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so we're going to take our second break, and I'm not even going to play the music this time. Caitlin, you introduce the song, and we'll get started, and we'll come right back.
Okay. So here is Stuck in This by Wise Girl.
You and I weren't supposed to go anywhere from here. We've got different views. You're the kind who shies away from what you don't want to know. Then I get mad and I pull out the low blows.
follow us on Facebook at Real Talk for Real Teens and on Twitter at RTFRT Radio.
Welcome back, guys, and let's continue the conversation.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I've known I wanted to be a journalist since I was 5, and my family has supported me with that decision. But up until recently, a lot of people I've spoken to are like, don't do it. It's a dying field. You're never going to get a job. What do you have to say about that to future journalists?
Well, I don't think journalism is dying. You know, people are still going to need news. People want news. And, in fact, the audience, the amount of news that people get is actually increasing. There's surveys that show, particularly, ask people, do you get more news than you used to? And there's data about how much time people spend online and where they spend it and things like that. So people are no less curious than they've ever been. And, in fact, they may be more curious because they can answer questions virtually nonstop if they want to. So there will be journalism. What we don't know is how it will be financed and where you might be working. You have the potential that you may be owning your own organization, which was never true for my generation. I had to go work for a big institution. The idea that I could create my own website and maybe would specialize and be really good at one or two things and have a small staff and make a go of it, that never entered anybody's mind. Maybe you could create a magazine, but you'd have to still get, millions of dollars to do it. So there will be journalism. And the other thing I would say is many, many, many people who become journalists get this bug when they're very young, because what really motivates them is that they're connecting people to one another. And there's something about delivering, telling a story and seeing sort of the light of understanding and recognition come on in someone's eyes. And that just kind of animates people. So it happened to me in high school when I went to a high school that was part of a desegregation experiment. It was very politically charged, and it kind of just animated me. Because really journalism is about creating community. And I don't mean community with your town. I mean a community of people who are interested in similar things, and that's caused by conversation, whether it's verbal or on television or printed. It's connecting people and bringing them together. That's really what this is, and that is not going away. I don't know how it'll be paid for, but it will happen.
Yeah. Do you think newspapers are going to be gone in 20 years, or as long as they have one person reading it, they're still going to print them?
Well, they have lots of people reading them, actually. They just, as I said before, they don't. The price of an ad online just does not compare to the amount of money you can charge for ads in print. So they don't generate a lot of money yet, and they haven't figured out how to make that work. And by the way, that's true of Facebook and Twitter. It's not like they're making lots and lots of money from online advertising. Twitter is still trying to figure out how to make money. Tumblr doesn't make any money at all, even though it got sold for $1 billion. They just have created very large communities. Will newspapers exist? Yeah, I think so. They may not be printing. They may be entirely online and on mobile devices, but there will be an organization in your town that has reporters who go out and find things out and cover government and cover other things that are going on. And it's even conceivable that the newspaper you have now won't be that newspaper. It'll be something that starts from scratch, or it could be the newspaper that's there now and that changes quite a bit and connects and engages with people in very different new ways.
Okay. So I know that you're founder, director of Projects for Excellence in Journalism, and you were a media critic and everything. What was your favorite job so far?
Well, one organization that I created with a friend of mine, a guy named Bill Kovach, was called the Committee of Concerned Journalists, and it was this was 1997, and we were just a bunch of journalists who were worried about something that Kim mentioned early on, which is that as there got to be more news organizations out there, more places people could go, the news companies said, "Oh my goodness, we're losing audience as to this sort of new fragmented world. Let's make our news more entertaining. Let's make it what some people began to call infotainment. Let's sort of stop covering things that we think might be boring for people, and cover things that are fun and that have a lot to do with celebrity." And because that's easier. We know people are interested in that, so let's do Justin Bieber all the time. Mm-hmm. And what happened was news will never be as entertaining as entertainment. So you start playing to your weakness. You're doing something kind of, it's like, making candy without sugar. It's just not the real thing. And that was a mistake, and this committee that I created was journalists sort of trying to push back against that and say, you know what, if you're going to be in the news business, you kind of need to believe in news.
I love that. You kind of need to have an interest in news, fellas. I have a question for you. I have a question for you, Tom. What do you think about The Onion?
I love it. I love The Onion, and I love The Daily Show, because they make fun of the stuffiness of the old style of news, and mm-hmm. by doing that they shake things up, and they make news people and people in the news too, not just the people who write the news, but the people who make the news. They show them when they're being ridiculous, and everybody needs that. So I love The Onion. I think it's hilarious. I've been satirized in it, and I've been on The Daily Show, and I think that Jon Stewart and his group do like a fantastic. They're some of the best press critics in the country.
And it's funny because I knew about The Onion when it was just in Chicago, because I was living in Chicago at the time. And people who, again, were uninformed could not tell you the difference between the Onion and Chicago Times and Chicago Tribune. And they quote something out of The Onion, and you're like, where did you get that from? And you're like, okay, come on, dude. Did you not realize that was satirical? And it was just, again, people not being informed enough to even know when somebody's being, being sarcastic. It was, just like the Daily Show, he'll get, he's like you said, he's great, and he'll tell people, doggone it, this is supposed to be for entertainment. I don't take this too seriously. Right. I mean, he gets the biggest laugh of all out of people thinking that he's something other than a comedian. I mean, he's a satirist, as you say, but he's doing it for laughs. I remember when I was on The Daily Show once, and they were doing a long interview with me, and they asked me, one of the questions they asked was, so tell me a joke. And I thought, okay, this is a trap. I don't know what this is for, but this is not, they don't really want me to tell a joke. So I said, well, do you want me to tell you a long joke? I know some long jokes, or do you want me to tell you a short joke? Because I'm not so good at short jokes, but I know some very long. The guy said, just stop. And I said, why? And he said, because we just wanted video of you going, And I realized, this is a Daily Show. They don't match the questions to the answers. They're just, once they got a piece of videotape, they're going to use that however they want, because it's a comedy show. I wish I would have seen that, because now they're going to just replay, Tom, Well, I didn't, because I just rambled for a second until he told me to shut up.
So you're an author.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your books?
Yes, I've written, it's hard to believe, I've written 7 books.
Wow.
And the first one was about, I spent a year inside ABC News when it, as it was trying to cover a presidential election. And I wrote about sort of how TV makes politics. And then...
hold on, sorry. Which election was that?
It was 1992, the year that Bill Clinton got elected president.
Okay.
And he ran against George Bush, the first George Bush, who was the president at the time.
And he got one term. Okay.
Mhm. And then the other books that I've written have all been about journalism in one way or another. And one of them, if Caitlin, if you go to college, you may have to read it. It's called The Elements of Journalism, and it's pretty much a standard text in most schools about what are the underlying principles that make something journalism. And I got a new book out that just came out a couple of weeks ago that I co-edited with a woman named Kelly McBride, and it's called The New Ethics of Journalism. And it tries to it's a book of essays that we edited, and it's trying to figure out, okay, in this new world where there's Twitter and there's anybody could post something and it could be journalism, what makes something, what are the ethics here? It can't be that your independence, the fact that you only are a journalist makes you a journalist. So what makes something ethical if you happen to be, let's say, you're a political advocate, but you find yourself someplace and you suddenly you commit an act of journalism? What's the ethical behavior there? So we're hoping that and is there such a thing as truth anymore, and how do you know what it is? All those things are part of it.
Oh my God, I have that conversation about the difference between truth and fact so much with people, and they just don't get it. And that's what I want to talk about when we come back. But I didn't know, Caitlin, that we had a journalism rock star in our midst. He's talking about the Daily Show, and he has the textbook that everybody's reading for college.
I know. I want to be you. You have my dream job.
Well, my kids wouldn't say that. You want to be me, so whatever.
Well, they never do. I don't care who you are. So we're going to go to our next song, Caitlin. So if you can introduce that.
This is Roles Are Reversed by Wise Girl.
Roles are reversed now, how does it feel? Your brain's running from real to real, I know. It's cold. You're second best compared to him. Don't abuse the hit you with the whim, I know. It's cold. Questioning actions, where'd you go wrong? Thinking about the girl you got at home. Inconvenience, your selfishness shines through, and you know what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do. Stop talk till you're blue in the face. Your heart's racing, can't keep up with the pace. I know it's cold. Bad and tricky, you need a scheme, but then you're flowing too fast upstream, I know. It's cold. Questioning actions, where'd you go wrong? Thinking about the girl you got at home. Inconvenience, your selfishness shines through, and you know what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do. Anyone who believes in you cries too, and the truth you
unknown music artists, we need you for the show. If you'd like your own mini concert, please send a request for information to realtalkforrealteens@gmail.com.
I want to spend this last few minutes, Tom, talking about what you just said about the ethics in journalism. I'm one of those people who I'm very conscientious about when I'm, first of all, that I understand communication doesn't happen if everybody involved is not understanding each other. I have an issue with people. We were communicating. No, if you aren't on the same page and you're not using the same definitions, you're not communicating. So I'm really a stickler for making sure everybody is. If we're talking about blue shoes, that everybody's talking about the same blue shoes, so there's no as little miscommunication as possible. And when you said truth, that really hit me because I'm always having the conversation about the difference between truth and facts. Facts can be changed. Truth remains the same. I was looking at when I guess a few weeks ago when South Korea and North Korea were celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Korean War. People in the north of the parallel line believe they won, and people below the parallel line believe they won. And the communists in I say textbooks or whatever they're teaching your young people in the north tells them that the North Koreans won the Korean War. That's not what the rest of the world believes who won the Korean War. Or how many times have people come into power and they've changed textbooks or thrown out information, and it's a fact, or they make it a fact, but that doesn't necessarily make it the truth.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and
what
I'm ever having that conversation.
Yeah. Well, and there's the word truth has many meanings, right? If you're in church, truth has one meaning, and it's not so much about literal facts. In fact, in medieval times, when the church was extremely influential over all aspects of society, the idea of sort of the truth of what did you say and and what happened yesterday was considered a lower form of truth, that it was really kind of revealed truth and moral truth that was much more important. And in that presentation where we met, Kim, I said that the word fact didn't appear in the English language until about 100 years after the printing press.
Wow.
And the printing press was a democratizing influence, and so more information was suddenly being spread, and there were more writers, and more people knew how to read 100 years after the printing press, and then people started to say, well, that's when the word fact began to emerge, at least in the English language. So one of the things, the concepts that I have in one of my books is the idea that journalism, like you read a news story, and it might not actually be the truth, because it might be so incomplete. But we can have an expectation that we can know more about something and begin to form a sense of the truth about something over time. So let's say there's a car accident in North and Maine, and you don't know how many people were injured or who was at fault. But if it was a big accident and it's written about in the newspaper and people inquire over it for enough days or weeks, eventually we will know. And truth is a process in that sense. But we're talking here about journalistic truth, and that's how many people died, who said what, how did it happen. It's more about what you might call external events, external truth. What size was the table? How many people were in the room? But once you start to get more toward the interior, well, why did this happen? Why did the president do this? Or what's really in the mind of the people running the military in Egypt when they decided to oust President Morsi? Once you start to get into motive and motivation and psychology, journalism gets a lot softer, and that kind of truth is a lot harder to come by. So there's truth, and there's truth, and there's truth.
Yeah, and there are various levels of truth because back in the day the Earth was flat, and that was the truth. When I was in school, Pluto was a planet. Now it's not. There's
right. When I was in college, we had this textbook, and it said there's a theory about earthquakes. It's called tectonic plates, but we don't know if it's true. Well, now everybody knows it's true, but it was just a theory
and quantum
back then.
Physics. Exactly, quantum physics and everything that goes with that. So what do you have to say about all this, Caitlin, as we close out, about truths and facts and as it relates to your peers?
I had to actually write essays on this for my journalism class this year, so I just learned about it all, and you don't know what to believe anymore. Just like the Boston bombing, when that was going on, I know that everyone was releasing information as everything was happening, and some of the stuff was not true, and people believed it. You don't know what to believe anymore, but, yeah.
Well, one of the things I've noticed, Tom, about that is, with everybody, again, with that infotainment term, we are quick to put information out there without checking how substantive it is. So I find myself, when something like that happens, not watching something for a day, just so everybody can get, as you said, get after the accident. Everybody can now sit around the table and discuss or talk to the police officer, and he can get an idea of what's being said, so that now he can put the pieces together. Because I find that in those things, everybody's so quick to get information out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is misinformation, and people aren't discerning. That's the word right there. Discerning enough to say, "Hey, that was okay. That he said that. Let me check another source and see what they say." Or did he say that in that moment, and maybe 15 minutes later, with more information, he'll say something else?
Yeah. Well, and that's a matter of people in public life who don't always tell the truth. Or change change what they say to with the political wind, but also sometimes it's just yeah, I know, only in Washington where I live. But the other thing is, sometimes it's an honest thing. A guy, an official will say something, and then he or she will have more information, and then they say something different. One of the things that you want from journalism, and actually, one of the guys who's really good at this is Jon Stewart, is to have some memory, so that if somebody says something and then a week later they say the opposite, you've got somebody who says, you know what, that's not what you said last week. We know because we're recording this, we're that's part of our job is to remember, because other people are busy living their lives, being students, being dentists, being whatever. And we're here just to kind of listen. We're the observer on behalf of everybody else. That's the role that professional journalists, at least, play for.
That's the big
rest
thing
of
that's
us.
changed with all the technology. People used to be able to get away with that because very few people were listening, let alone recording or remembering, as you say, what was being said. People could flip-flop all day long, and now it's much harder for them to do that. And now these things are just like the Anthony Weiner thing. I don't how he did not. Well, I guess he said some other stuff was going to come out. He knew some other stuff was going to come out, but I don't know if he quite knew. He had to know these people were going to start digging for information to say, "Hey, dude, even when you were doing this interview with your wife and your kids sitting right next to you, you were still participating in this behavior."
Yeah, right. One of the problems is today there's so much media that it's easier, ironically, for people in public life to hide, to say, well, I'm going to stay behind this rope line, I'm going to stay on the jet, I can't answer questions because there's so many of you. The vast sort of growth in the number of media makes it easier for people who are trying to hide from the press to just sort of hide out, have a press agent.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the when I first got into journalism in the early 1980s, you could go follow a presidential candidate around, and if you went early enough in the process, you might be the only person on his or her airplane. and you really had
wow.
access to them.
Wow.
You know, that just doesn't really happen anymore.
Yeah.
There are too many.
Yeah, because not only do you have what, quote unquote, as Caitlin says, you know, credible sources, but now you have all these entertainment sources trying to get their president from the entertainment point of view. Then you have, you know, all these other people who are there. That's interesting.
There's a concept in physics called Gresham's law, or it might be economics actually, and I think it's economics.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's this idea that bad things crowd out good. So if you have a lot of bad journalists out there, they crowd out the good ones in part because a public figure can answer the bad question and dodge the good ones.
Yeah. Yep. And they have that speech ready for the bad.
Mm-hmm.
They can anticipate that. And that's just the same thing with young people. We're always hearing about the worst in them and never hearing about the good things that they're doing or you know, the good news that, you know, people are like, why is always news so depressing? Because that's what you guys want to hear. That's what screams the loudest for you. There's some great stuff out there, and there are people putting that out there. But are you reading it? Are you listening to it? No, you're not. So they're going to give you what you want.
And yet, the way we have advances through human history is somebody comes along who's better and who makes us all behave better, kind of appeals to what Lincoln called our better angels of our nature. And we all go, oh, we should do that. We should follow that. Martin Luther King or Martin Luther. And you know, that's how we evolve.
Well, I want to thank you, Tom, for coming on tonight. This has been quite enlightening, and I know my co-host has been ecstatic having
yeah.
on. You're the
I feel
Justin
so inspired.
Bieber for her.
Yeah,
well, that's
you
very
seriously
flattering.
have no idea.
You're her Justin Bieber.
Oh, man.
I didn't think you ever hear that, did you, Tom?
I'm going to go tell my kid in a minute.
Well,
I want to be you.
Thank you for coming on, and yeah, this is great. This is great information. So, anything you want to say before we leave, Caitlin?
Nope.
All right.
I
What
feel
about
so
you, Tom?
inspired now.
Well, I just want to say thanks for having me. It means a lot to me to kind of think about and talk to young people about this stuff because that's how that's how change is going to happen, and it makes me think in fresh ways. And it also, if I want to make any kind of a difference, talking to young people is definitely the way to do it.
Exactly. Well, thank you for being on, and you guys have a wonderful night. And Caitlin, if you can introduce our last song.
All right, here is Wishful Thinking.
All right, guys, good night.
The
Thank you for listening, and please join us each and every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern for more Real Talk for Real Teens.